Hi, this is Nahid, and welcome back. Today, we're going to take a deeper look at beliefs. And before actually showing you how to identify your own limiting beliefs, I think it's worth a discussion on why the beliefs level lives at the bottom of the obstacles pyramid and why it is so important to do this work. So, as an overview and a quick review for context, everything we're doing in this series is informed by the guiding question: if we're smart and capable and we have the freedom to create any life we want for ourselves, then why are so many people stuck and unhappy? Well, something must be getting in the way. And that led to my mission of clearing the path to success for as many people as possible. In order to clear the path to success, I have to understand what's getting in the way of success. And that's when I developed the obstacles pyramid, which gives us a framework. And we've been following this framework through our entire series. We've gone through every level of the pyramid from top to bottom. And now we were at the lowest level of the pyramid. This is the level that is the least easy to see. This is the level that is the hardest to change. But the payoff when you change your beliefs is incredible. It changes your whole life. Okay, one thing that's really important when it comes to beliefs is this idea of I see what I already believe. So we have a mechanism in our brain called selective perception. And what selective perception does is it takes in information around us that's relevant to us, because there's so much information around us that if we didn't have a filter, we would become crazy and paralyzed trying to take in all the data and make sense of it. So what we generally do, and our brain is designed to do this, is anything that's familiar, that already makes sense, we sort of habituate to. We notice things that are different from normal, and we notice things that line up with what we believe and what already makes sense. What we don't notice are things that don't seem significant and also don't make sense in our worldview. And one example is, let's say that we are exposed to these four scenes. So one scene is somebody cutting someone else off on the freeway. Another scene is somebody helping somebody pick up some papers. Another scene is somebody opening the door for somebody. And another scene are people in a store fighting over a product or service. If we have a belief that inherently people are kind, then typically we're going to take notice of the person opening the door, and we're going to take notice of the person helping the other person with their papers. We're not going to pay that much attention to the person cutting the other person off. We're going to come up with some dismissive explanation. We're not going to think they're rude. We're going to think, oh, they're in a hurry, or they're not thinking, or whatever, but we're not even going to really register it. And then the people fighting over the product in the store, we might not notice or pay attention too much, or if we do, we might laugh it off and say, gosh, those particular people are exceptions in this moment to the general rule of people being kind. Now, on the other hand, if we grow up with a belief that people are selfish, what we're going to notice is opposite. We're going to notice the car cutting someone off. We're going to react to that. And we're going to go, see, people are selfish. We're going to notice the people fighting over the product in the store, and we're going to say, see, people are selfish. And when we see the person opening the door for the other person, we're not going to think of it at all really that much. We might notice it, but we might not register it as important. And we might have an explanation for it, or we might not. If we see someone helping each other, same thing. We'll generally dismiss these things that don't line up with what we already believe. So selective perception starts a process that's really important to understand when it comes to your beliefs, defining what you are and are not able to accomplish in life. I want to share a story that really illustrates the idea that anything you believe becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. This idea that what you believe will manifest. I think people want to believe that sometimes, because then they think if they believe good things, then those things will manifest. But then some people think that that's kind of a silly thing to believe. So I think it's important to work through this example and really try to understand how beliefs become self-fulfilling prophecy. Okay. So in this particular situation, I'm going to take two salespeople. The salespeople's names are Aaron and Brian, and they're both going to be in the same situation. They encounter a prospect who starts acting distracted and looking bored during their meeting with the prospect. The prospect's not making eye contact and glancing at his phone. The only difference between Aaron and Brian is what they believe about themselves and about sales. So let's talk about Aaron first. So Aaron, in this situation, has a belief that sales is hard and that he's not very good at it. Okay. So now Aaron encounters the situation where the prospect not making eye contact and glancing at his phone. If Aaron already believes that sales is hard and he's not very good at it, how might he interpret this situation? Immediately, Aaron wonders why the prospect is not making eye contact and glancing at his phone or watch. And his natural interpretation is the prospect is annoyed at me. Maybe he's not interested. And then with that as his interpretation, what emotions is he going to have? Well, if I believe that the prospect's annoyed at me or not interested, I might feel flustered. I might feel anxious. I might feel some pressure or some embarrassment. And if those are the emotions I'm feeling, then what behaviors am I naturally going to engage with? Well, I might leave quickly, right? Get out of the guy's way so I'm not bothering him anymore. Or maybe because I'm feeling pressured, I might start fast talking to get his attention back. But either way, these are not very effective behaviors, and they tend to lead to disengagement from the prospect. So the prospect either disengages and just continues to glance at his phone or watch, or the prospect starts to feel pressured with the fast talking and he pushes back. Either way, how the prospect has behaved has now lined up with Aaron's belief, and he continues to believe that sales is hard and he's not very good at it. And here is one great example of it. But now Brian is in the situation. So Brian is still in the same situation as Aaron. The only thing that's different between Brian and Aaron is that Brian has a different belief. Brian's belief is that sales is easy and I'm pretty good at it. So Brian goes into this situation with that belief, and he has the same experience. The prospect's not making eye contact. He's glancing at his phone. The only difference between Aaron and Brian are their beliefs, and that immediately leads to a different interpretation. The prospect is worried or distracted. He doesn't make it about himself because he's not thinking that he's bad at sales, and he's not thinking that sales is hard. He's thinking that sales is easy, and he's thinking that he's good at it. So he sees the prospect engaging in this behavior. What he thinks is, what's wrong with the prospect, not what's wrong with me. And he gets curious and interested. So his emotions are not embarrassment or frustration or pressure or anxiety. His emotions are curiosity, maybe concern, maybe interest. And the resulting behavior is asking questions, seeking to connect, to understand. Mr. Client, I'm noticing that you're a little distracted. Is something going on? Now, what this behavior does is it re-engages the prospect. The prospect might say, you know what? I just had an emergency. There's something going down in the hall. I didn't want to be rude, but I do need to deal with this. Can you wait here for 5 minutes while I go deal with it? And then I'll come back and then you'll have my full attention. That might be it. Or, I don't think this product's really going to be a good fit for me. And then Brian can follow up with, okay, well, tell me about that. And so they're continuing to have a conversation. What ends up happening is the prospect re-engaging may give Brian a sale. Or even if it doesn't, it gives Brian a closer relationship with the prospect, continues to build his network, and continues his belief to support his belief that sales is easy and I'm pretty good at it. So this is one example of how beliefs tend to be self-fulfilling prophecies. The interpretation that you have over any given situation, how you explain it to yourself or your story about it, is always based in what you already believe about the world. And there's the glitch right there. Because if you feel pretty positive about the world, if you feel pretty empowered, if you feel like it's easy to get your needs met, then usually you're confident in situations, and the interpretations that you have are usually pretty positive. And then the emotions that come up because of those positive interpretations are usually positive emotions. and you lead in your behavior with positive emotions. So you deal with whatever the situation is much more effectively and create a positive outcome. Whereas if you have a negative interpretation of a situation, you're usually experiencing negative emotions. Those triggered emotions tend to not only cause you stress, but that negative energy also infects the people that you're with, and they get stressed, and then they tend to react to you negatively. So you create a self-fulfilling cycle, especially in situations that involve other people. So I'm going to bring you back to our scarcity and our abundance model just to take another look at, well, what happens if I believe that the things I need in this world are scarce? And what happens if I believe that the things that I need in this world are abundant? Well, based on what we just looked at, your beliefs become a self-fulfilling prophecy. And this is why beliefs and needs are interconnected. Needs are the most important thing. It's most important to get your needs met, but beliefs are the strongest thing that will hold you back or propel you forward. Because if you believe that you can easily get your needs met, that will create a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you'll freely receive anything you need when it's offered to you. And you'll always feel full of it. And when you engage with people, you won't react negatively to them if they're rude to you now and then, because you won't be taking it personally, because you're so full of the positive things and you feel like there's plenty of it out there. It's kind of like if you're looking for a job and you know that you have 5 different opportunities out there, then in an interview, when someone doesn't seem like they think that you're a good fit and they start talking about that, it doesn't feel like a threat to you, because you know that you'll easily be able to engage with one of the other opportunities. But if you feel a sense of scarcity and this interview is the only job available to you and the only job that could be a good fit, you start reacting when someone starts talking to you about not being a good fit. And then you say to yourself, oh my gosh, I have to prove to them that I'm a good fit. And your energy changes and the intensity of your energy changes. Either you become more pushy and you try to sell yourself harder, which is a turnoff, or you do the opposite. You kind of retreat and you get really quiet and maybe insecure, and you withdraw, and that disengages your interviewer too, right? So when you have this sense of scarcity about things, you tend to make them more scarce just by your belief that they're scarce in the first place, right? So when it comes to love, if you don't believe that people love you or that people will love you without conditions, then when people do love you without conditions, that seems weird to you. And so that relationship just doesn't feel natural to you. You don't feel comfortable in it. But if you run into a relationship with someone who lines up with your belief, even if that doesn't feel good because you're not loved all the time, it feels more comfortable. And this is why we tend to marry people who are not necessarily able to give us what we most need. And we tend to be attracted to bosses who tend to not always give us what we need in the same way that we didn't get our needs met when we're parents. That is if we don't do this work. Now, if we do this work and we unravel all this, then it dissipates. It stops controlling us because we have seen it. We've shined a light on it. And so now we can change it. But if we don't shine the light on it ever, then we don't know. And this just operates in the background. So that's why what you most fear tends to come to you, because the things that you already believe or fear are attracted to you. And not because of any weird woo-woo stuff in the universe. There's scientific reasons why that is. Okay, so if you think about it, our ultimate goal is to believe that we can easily get all of our needs met, so that we do get all of our needs met easily. That's the ultimate goal. You have to be able to believe it. Well, you can't believe what you don't believe. So if you have some needs that you really don't believe you can get met, don't despair. You have to open yourself up to learning if there are ways that you can get your needs met now that maybe didn't exist when you were a little kid. So if we believe that we can easily get all our needs met, then we spend most of our time in a place of inner peace and self-confidence. And when we're in this place of inner peace and self-confidence, we can act without getting stuck. Believing that you can get your needs met and knowing how to get your needs met is the absolute key to happiness and well-being. So we're going to be working on beliefs, which is the deepest level of the pyramid. But the reason we're going to be working on beliefs is so we can find the beliefs that prevent us from getting our needs met and just change those. So that makes it less daunting and more containable. Now, in our next video, we're going to talk to you about how to identify your limiting beliefs. Looking forward to seeing you there.